Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to our first ever televised Startup Week Game Changers. My name is Caleb Talley. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events at the Startup Junkie Foundation, and I am pleased to be joined this evening by Mr. Tom Gordon of Slim Chickens. Tom Gordon and his co-founder Greg Smart started Slim Chickens in Fayetteville in 2003, and in the years that followed, Slim Chickens has taken over Northwest Arkansas, the country, and you're on the verge of world domination. And so we appreciate you joining us here this evening, Mr. Gordon.
Happy to.
And I will start right off. Where did the idea for Slim Chickens come from, and what was the tipping point, that moment that every entrepreneur experienced that made you take the leap?
When we were right out of college, I lived in Little Rock. Greg Smart lived in Little Rock. I eventually moved to Los Angeles, but he had seen some of these concepts around the country, in the Southeast mainly, that were coming up. One that was kind of around that had been there for quite a while, and he said, "Look, no one's doing fresh tenders in Northwest Arkansas. No one's doing this right. I think we can start off here in Northwest Arkansas." He was doing retail here, I was doing restaurants, and we combined forces and felt like we could start here in Northwest Arkansas and branch off to Tulsa and Little Rock and Kansas City and Dallas, and we've done all that. And it was a good city. It was close to home, and we wanted to start here and build a company here.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 28 when I moved back here to Northwest Arkansas. And it took a while to get it put together, but we opened the first restaurant in February of 2003.
And for our Game Changers, we like to take audience questions, and so we took questions from our social media followers prior to recording this. And so we have a question from Derek Holland, who asked, what was the biggest hurdle you and your team faced early on? What do you think was perhaps the hardest thing really in getting started?
I mean, like many entrepreneurs, we were just woefully undercapitalized, and we didn't know. I mean, it's that situation where you think, I can do this, and my little rudimentary math on my calculator makes sense, it works for me. But you get into the real day-to-day life of running a business, and the bills that are there, and you got to pay your people, and you got to take care of them way before you take care of yourself, and managing an entire 7-day-a-week business. We were short on cash every day for years and years.
How did you build your team early on? Were there any key hires early on when you were starting and growing that really made the difference?
There have been a lot of key hires, and what we see today here in Northwest Arkansas, and this office and our company in total around the world, is really a testament to the great people that we've had come work for us. One of the first ones was our CFO, a guy named Seth Jensen, who was in Kansas City for a while with Applebee's, and he was with Witch in Dallas, and he came up to see us with a group that wanted to buy us just to do a covered land play back before the recession in 2008. We said, no, we're not ready to do that yet, but I need you to stay because we need a CFO. Greg and I were always great at making the registers ring, but we couldn't keep our hands on any of the money. It just kept flying away. So he introduced some structure to us, some forecasting, and some accounting principles that allowed us to sort of wrangle in what we were doing and allowed us to grow. I think we had 7 restaurants when Seth showed up, and that was a critical hire. He started to build his team. The next critical hire was a guy named Sam Rothschild, who was the CEO at Applebee's for a long time, knew franchising, and I somehow managed to talk him into sticking around and hanging out with us. But really built the franchising system and built the system that we put out to our franchisees now, and just has had an incredible run in attracting his talent for his team and attracting super high quality franchisees that really are business partners and even family. It's the Slim Chickens family, and what we call the Slim's Nation is a huge part of what we do. There's one other kind of top key hire that we made that was critically important, was our CMO, a guy named Allison. Chris was a marketing guy, owned an agency, and did only regional and national restaurant chains. And his input and architecting of the pre-opening and post-opening management of marketing and how you drive comps and sales. And he says, I love what he says. It's hand-to-hand combat every day. So for him, it's not about just, beautiful commercials. It's like, what are sales? What are we doing? How do we pull the levers? How do we make things happen? And that sort of builds out the bulk of the executive team that I was able to bring together. Now, there's untold number of people out in the field. Our GMs are great. The managers that we have, the restaurants are great. I wish I knew every single one of their names, but I don't. And the teams here that our executive group has built to support the growth of the organization.
And you touched on a little bit about how early on undercapitalized you were. Can you tell us a little bit about how the company was financed early on?
A wing and a prayer, a lot of credit cards, a lot of credit card debt, but we had some help. We had some great behind the scenes help. I had a banker who was a branch manager at a bank that we've used up here, and we used early on, and I won't name it, but I don't know how many times I'd call her and say, look, I paid a bill on Friday, but don't let it go till Monday. And, we get the weekend sales in and we'll be able to cover it. And she took such tremendous care of us. But a key to that also is getting ahead of it, like just staying ahead with vendors. Like, look, we're going, here's our trajectory, here are trends, and just managing the shortfalls that every business inevitably has. I mean, you're going to see it in any company, but staying ahead of it with your vendors, staying ahead of the issues, working it out as a group is the way that we always manage to solve those things. And I think an important piece of the business puzzle in how you get from, instability to stability.
Mm-hmm. I have an audience question from Bill Welsh who asked, is it true that you flipped a coin early on with your partner to see who would sell their car to make payroll, or is that just legend?
That is not legend. That is absolutely true. And it happened more than once, in fact.
Really?
It happened 2 times that I remember. I think we talked about it probably more than that. Luckily, I didn't lose.
Both times.
But we say none of us really ever lost. Everybody has a company that they start from scratch, makes sacrifices. And those are things you got to do. You don't pay yourself. You sell a car to make payroll. You take your money to the bank after a Friday lunch to make sure you make Friday payroll for your people. That's real life in business. That's real life in American capitalism. And if you can stick to it, often you can get to the next level.
When did y'all decide to take on outside capital, outside of early initial investors?
We've had suitors for years. I mean, just for a long time, folks have said, hey, you really got something here. And I don't know if it's my stubbornness, but I wanted the deal that I wanted. And so it didn't show up till last year. Big institutional outside equity came, 16 years into the business. Now you look back on that and you wonder, should I have done it sooner? Should I have done that sooner? I don't know. That's always a good question. Might we be a little further along in number of stores and store count? Potentially. Could the value of the organization be just as big for us that started it if we would have taken capital early? Maybe. But you can look at the totality of events, and I think you could say honestly that we made mostly the right choices to get where we are here today. And we were very pleased and very happy to have 10 Point Capital out of Atlanta come along and work with us, really work hard to structure the structure that we both felt comfortable with, bang out the details and get a deal done that we felt was really, worthy of what we've done and also could be, really transformational for their firm. So deals like that are always a meeting of the minds and a partnership, and you got to kind of churn through it, but we've been very pleased so far.
Do you think there will ever be a point where Slim Chickens goes public?
There's always a chance. I mean, what I tell people who ask me that question is, it's kind of a dream. I would love to do it, just because it's a big swipe at the plate if you're the CEO and founder of a big public company. Will that happen? Will we all want to wrestle with the regulations and the regulatory environment? I couldn't tell you today. It's not anytime soon on the horizon, I can tell you that.
So you recently opened your 111th store, correct? Slim Chickens has taken over the country. How long did it take you to realize you'd built such a national brand?
There have been kind of aha moments and times that we really were like, wow, we've really done something. But it still feels today like we're still doing it right now. Like I don't feel satisfied. I don't feel like we've achieved world domination yet. I think we've grown quite a bit. We're in a lot of states now, and we've got a lot of franchise partners, and have even expanded internationally. But there's a lot left to do, and we want to do it. We want to do it right, and as long as I'm sitting in this seat, we're going to try to do that.
And this is a free one. I didn't even write this one down, but tell me a little bit about your brand, just the brand of that you've built.
Well, the ethos of the brand is to serve great hot food throughout our communities that we serve, and we're Southern at heart, and people ask, what does that mean? Does it play well out of the South? The answer is yeah. We have a store in Minot, North Dakota that is one of our top selling restaurants. So Southern at heart really means for us welcoming families, kids, guys in suits, construction guys with muddy boots, moms. Everybody's welcome. All people. We like to serve everybody. And we want to be a place in the community where everybody feels like they can go and feel comfortable. Whether it's for a large unsweet tea on the run, or 2 hours in there with a laptop and eating lunch or dinner. We want to be there. And look, that's not just a totally altruistic thing. If we are a community fixture, then we are doing our job for the communities, and we're going to be successful as well.
111 stores. How many states is that?
I want to say we're 17 states now, with a couple new ones coming on every several months. The newest one was Florida. In the last couple of months, we opened a restaurant in Panama City Beach. We also opened a store in Utah. Those are the two latest states that we've done.
And so, how many, if you were, have your crystal ball, and how many stores is your goal, I guess, for say 2025?
We always put out there that we wanted to hit 600 restaurants. The COVID year has sort of slowed that down a bit. I think that we'll be on a good pace to do between 20 and 30, maybe more restaurants every year, and that'll build in the future. Because of our equity deal with 10 Point, we're not under pressure to go too terribly fast, and we don't want to make bad decisions for us or our franchisees. So we're going to be methodical, we're going to be careful, but we're going to grow as fast as we can within the bounds of the organization.
And you mentioned that you have some international locations. We have an audience question from Jacob Pesiak, who asked, what led you to go international, and how did you embark on that?
That's a long story, and we'll see if I can condense it for you in a few minutes here. But our partners in Kuwait found us. They were here in the U.S. Looking at chicken brands, and somebody in their organization knew a restaurant executive here in the U.S. who had known in some past life our chief operating officer, Sam Rothschild. So, well, if you're looking for chicken, you need to come to these guys in Arkansas. Of course, they're like, where? And so, but we found them. We got them up here. We did our discovery day. They liked us. We liked them. We ended up working that deal out and doing a deal for the Middle East, which was an incredible experience. I mean, there was nothing better than going to Kuwait, seeing my guys, giving them hugs and high fives, and they were opening one of our restaurants in Kuwait. It was just an incredible experience. Our partners in the UK saw us in Kuwait. One of their guys saw us there, reached out, contacted one of our VPs here, and we worked on that deal for a few months. Went over there to London, saw them. They came over here, saw what they were trying to do, and worked that deal out. And that's been a great partnership. They've got 8 units over there in the UK, with a lot more on the way out. In the next several years.
Where's next?
Well, we were looking at several opportunities around the world. I think it's hard to know where things will happen. I mean, obviously we got a toehold in the UK, which could lead to European expansion. We've had calls and interest from really all over the world, but we have to be judicious and careful. You can burn up a lot of money chasing stuff all over the world, but we'll find opportunities as they show up.
So let's talk about what's on the menu at Slim Chickens. What do you think was probably your biggest product release in the 16, 17 years?
The one that's had the biggest pop and longevity is the chicken and waffles. We weren't sure about that product. We loved it. It tasted great. With the audience, with the customer base, receive it, and they went crazy. And it's been a top seller for us ever since. I mean, we never took it off the menu. It's been an amazing run, and continues to be a great product.
I know what's for lunch now. It's only fitting. What was the biggest flop, and how do you determine what makes the menu?
We've had a couple of flops, but often the flops don't get to the menu. We had and there's a poster of it right back there. We had a great po' boy sandwich that our team put together. I mean, we went to New Orleans and tested bread and remoulade sauce and had the chicken cut a particular way that we did in the sandwich. It was so good. But we tested it in a restaurant, and it was just too hard to put together. And it slowed us down. And while the product was great, it cannot get in the way or impede the guest experience and anybody else who doesn't want the product. And so we had to just put it on the shelf. Now, I secretly hope it gets revived somehow, someday. But those are kind of the pinnacles. If it's not easy to execute, and if it's not profitable, and if the guest doesn't like it, you just don't do it. And so we had to be disciplined and stick to our guns and put on the shelf a amazing product that we just couldn't get out of the kitchen fast enough. But that's a good example.
And I've read somewhere about maybe a decision with the dressings at one point in time. A change there with the dressings.
We did years ago. We only had 2 restaurants. We embarked on a prepackaged where you peel the little foil label up over the thing, and they were all shelf stable, and we thought we'd save a lot of labor and evolve the business, right? Just totally wrong. We put it out for one lunch, and the guests revolted. I mean, they went crazy, and rightly so. It was good, but it wasn't our stuff. And really, what we learned from that lesson is you can't ever fool the guest. I mean, you just can't do it. And why try? And B, that homemade stuff that we make, whether we think it's better or not, it's got to be what we have delivered over consistently year over year. And it's what the guest wants. And don't try to sway the guest some way for any other benefit other than what they want to have in front of them. So, we took all $6,000 worth of that product, and back then that might as well have been $600,000, and threw it all in the dumpster and went right back to what we were doing. We adjusted in one shift, and I think it was important that we did it. And it's one of those lessons that we just will never forget.
And you mentioned a couple of times, how the pandemic has affected, growth and strategy. How else has Slim Chickens been affected, and how have y'all been able to adapt to feed America?
Well, the first 2 weeks that it really happened, it was about March the 20th or 23rd that dining room shut down. It was March 23rd, dining room shut down. And we saw it coming March the 20th. And those first 2 weeks were, they were dark and scary for a lot of people. And to not place the importance on those who are still suffering, because I know that the U.S. economy is suffering, certainly. But we came out of that 2 weeks in a pretty good place. The drive-thrus were busy. The apps were busy. Our CMO, Allison, came to me very early on and said, listen, I'm seeing marketing getting dropped. I want to go buy it all. I want to go get it all right now, have it in our arsenal, and really drive our app and drive-through message throughout the month of April. So that's a scary moment. He said, I need, a bunch of money like today. And I said, will it work? And he said, yeah, it'll work. And look, that's trusting your team. It's trusting the pros that know more than you, which they all know more than me, my goodness. But that trust and that bond that I have with Chris and with the rest of our executive team allowed that to happen. We acquired a lot of media for the entire system all over the country, and we started really driving that app and online and drive-through message. Around the pandemic issues, curbside service, masks, gloves, etc. And that made a huge difference. And our numbers and sales and comps have been great. throughout the rest of that time, from about early April on, well, we've really had a good run. We've been super fortunate, and I've really been happy with how it's gone.
And the app and the website, all ordering, was that something that was already in place and it's just kind of directed more people to that?
Yeah, it was in place maybe 2.5 years prior to now. We said, look, having an app is going to be table stakes in the industry at some point in the future. We want to do it now. We want to be ahead of the curve. It was a lot of money to us back then, but I'm so very glad we invested it because it's been a massive piece of the business, with COVID, and has really helped us keep our numbers where we needed to be, and our franchisees too. I mean, the entire system has benefited by those strategic decisions that we embarked on 2 years ago, and then the aggressive marketing work that we did right as the pandemic started.
And college football season is right around the corner, and the pandemic has obviously affected that as well. With only a certain number of fans allowed in the stadium, which means a great deal of fans, and no tailgating on campus, which means significantly less Razorback fans here in Northwest Arkansas. I imagine. Do you think that will affect Slim Chickens with fewer fans in Northwest Arkansas?
Oh, I think it's got to. I mean, it would be naive to think that there'd be no effect when football's on, and especially on here in Northwest Arkansas, and games are coming here. People come here, and we get the benefit of that. We'll see that impact. Our numbers are very good up here, but you won't see the bumps in the numbers on those Saturdays and Sundays for game day that we've seen in the past. We'll see some, I imagine. There'll be some people here. And look, there are those that just want to be around the college campus in the fall and on game days, and there'll be some benefit. And we're going to try to work with all our universities to participate and help in any way we can. But sure, there'll be some moderate sales impact just because we don't have 80,000 people in town like we usually do.
And do you sell more chicken when the Razorbacks are winning?
Luckily for us, we sell quite a bit no matter what. I think we would rather them win, just to have more people come up and see us. But we're supporters of the Razorbacks. Certainly, we're supporters of universities around the country that we're close to. But yeah, we like seeing winning teams everywhere we go.
Absolutely. I have an audience question from someone you probably know, Jeff Emeron,
sure.
who asked, when are you going to buy canes so Arkansas can finally beat Louisiana at something?
I don't know if we'll get to buy canes. I'm not sure that Todd would sell it. They're a formidable competitor. We respect them. At one point I talked to one of their guys. I said, look, I won't go to Baton Rouge if you don't come to Northwest Arkansas, and they kind of broke that deal. So I guess we'll have to go down there and at least, go to Baton Rouge and fight it out with them for a while at some point in the future. But look, they're good at what they do. They're very different than what we do. We have a kind of a broad menu set, and it's worked well for us. So they'll always be competitors around the hoop, and they do a good job.
No, I'll conclude us with a two-part question. If you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, knowing what you know now, what do you think that would be?
Oh, man, how much time do we have here? It would take hours to try to counsel my younger self. I think being more open to ideas, especially around capital structure, could have helped. I mean, I was just such a hard-headed younger guy. That could have been a help for us. I think being open to different pathways of growth. There were times where people asked us to go into some malls. That was long ago. Malls aren't as viable now, but that may have helped us then. There were some other pathways that were available to us. It's hard to know, but like I said before, you have to navigate the murky waters of entrepreneurship day by day, and I think the majority of our decisions have been the right ones to get us here. But Lord knows we could spend the entire time talking about mistakes made and failures that we stumbled on. But we survived, and we're better for it.
I think one of the best answers we've ever gotten to that question is I wouldn't have told myself anything otherwise. If I knew what I knew now, I might not do it.
I think that it's true. You talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who say, man, I was just too dumb to know how bad we were falling apart. And there were times where we were really falling apart. I mean, there was a crisis at every store for years and years. We finally got the roll going where it where it really, really worked. And, those are lessons that are learned and that will always be valuable to me and Greg Smart. And it just takes time. Surviving is the key. And if you can survive long enough and have enough time and adjust quick, I think that anybody in the U.S., anybody in this country has a shot at it.
And the second part of that question is if you could give advice to a budding entrepreneur, those who are watching right now, what would that be?
I would say think about your capital stack. Make sure you have the runway you need to execute your plan and to allow for that plan to morph and change because, it does. I mean, we always joke that a forecast by definition is wrong because it's never, ever exactly right. And in the fog of war, things change and you have to adjust, and managing through that is such a key piece of entrepreneurship. I don't think it can be overstressed. Like, be open to adjustments, be able to adjust, listen to your peer group and listen to advisors, and surround yourself with those who have been around. That I've talked to a lot of really, really wealthy guys, and most of them say, and did say to me years ago, I said, you never make any money until you're 40. And I, of course, I'll beat that by a ton. I mean, well, let me tell you, I'm 45, and when I was about 40, it was looking pretty good, finally, right? That's 17 years of slim chickens. But that sort of openness, mindfulness, awareness of self, and awareness of opportunities that come along, and being able to change course. Because the course to prosperity is a crooked road, and you got to be able to manage the curves.
Well, we greatly appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Pleasure. Happy to.
Thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Gordon. And thank you for joining us on this special first ever recorded Game Changers event for our Startup Week. We hope you will tune in to the rest of this week's programmings.